This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Here comes the cold again. Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. The National Weather Service has issued an extreme cold watch for all of the listening area. Family Life's Dee Haley has the view from our Buffalo newsroom.
An Arctic cold front will cross the region tomorrow, prompting the National Weather Service to issue an extreme cold watch from late tomorrow night through Sunday morning. Dangerously cold wind chills are expected as low as 25 degrees below zero. Such extreme cold could cause frostbite on exposed skin in as little as 15 minutes. The cold front is also expected to bring widespread light snow and perhaps a few snow squalls over the weekend. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
All right, Dee, here we cold again. More with Kevin coming up. Searching for Nancy. That's the other big story today. President Trump's directed federal resources to Arizona now to help in the search for Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. The 84-year-old mom of the Today Show host was reported missing from her Tucson home on Sunday. Authorities believe Nancy Guthrie may have been abducted. Last night, Savannah Guthrie posted a video on social media pleading for the safe return of her mother.
Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you.
Police say blood was found in the home of Nancy Guthrie, and there are signs of a forced entry. TMZ reporting today a suspicious-looking man was seen lurking in a yard near Nancy Guthrie's home several weeks ago. De-icing Minneapolis. Border czar Tom Homan says immigration enforcement is reducing, not removing, its footprint in Minneapolis. He adds county jails there will now notify ICE before they release any illegal immigrants from custody. Correspondent Jackie Heinrich.
Homan says this is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement, and he emphasized that this agreement does not force local authorities to do any federal immigration enforcement themselves.
Federal agents are facing stiff opposition in Minneapolis after the ICE-involved fatal shootings of two protesters in separate incidents last month. President Trump admits ICE agents could have acted differently in their immigration enforcement tactics.
Maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. 700
ICE agents are being withdrawn from Minneapolis. 2,000 will remain there. The president ruffled some feathers today at the 74th annual National Prayer Breakfast. It happened at the Washington Hilton Hotel.
I don't know how a person of faith can vote for a Democrat. I really don't. And I know we have some here today, and I don't know why they're here, because they certainly don't give us their vote.
That remark brought a noticeable sigh from the audience. Mr. Trump said no president's done more than him to advance the cause of religious freedom in the public square.
I've done more for religion than any other president, but that's not saying much, because not too many presidents have done too much for religion. I want to tell you that. Certainly modern-day presidents, they bailed out on you.
Some religious groups boycotted today's prayer breakfast out of concern that it would become too political. Nuclear disarmament talks are set to get underway tomorrow in Oman. These are talks between the U.S. and Iran, the first face-to-face talks since the 12-day war back in June that culminated with a massive bombing raid on Iran's three main nuclear sites. The START treaty comes to a stop today. It's the last remaining treaty between the U.S. and Russia, which sets limits on nuclear weapons.
President Trump has said if it expires, it expires.
It's not like the day after it expires, everything will be much, much more dangerous.
Matthew Bunn, a nuclear expert at Harvard University, is hopeful for a pause rather than an end, but he said future nuclear accords will look different.
It's going to be more complicated and more challenging just because the issues in front of us are more complicated and more challenging.
A new arms race could be fueled by China's rapid nuclear buildup. Trump has said he wants to involve China in arms control talks.
That's correspondent Cammie McCormick. Jury selection resumes today in L.A. It's a landmark social media trial. Companies like Meta and YouTube accused of knowingly creating addictive content that's harmful to children. Tech expert Oliver Roberts.
This could fundamentally change the internet as we know it, because if liability is placed on these companies could be forced to change their algorithms. They may be forced to change how notifications are delivered to users, and that's going to cut right into their business model. They make money off clicks because that's advertiser dollars that come in the door. So this could fundamentally change how social media operates as we know it.
Roberts admits it'll be tough picking a jury for what he calls one of the most consequential trials this country has seen in decades. Defense attorneys are appealing a Florida judge's ruling that sentenced Ryan Ruth to life in prison for trying to assassinate President Trump on his golf course 2 years ago.
The judge may have mistakenly applied the federal crime of terrorism enhancement, and that will be probably the leading issue on appeal.
Ruth was arrested after camping out in the shrubs near the president's West Palm Beach golf course in September of 2024. There's a big push to save the iguanas in Florida during this stretch of unusually cold weather. In the cold, iguanas can freeze and fall out of the trees. They often die if they're not quickly saved. Florida Fish and Wildlife allowing people now to collect stunned and struggling iguanas. So far, over 5,000 of these reptiles have been rescued. Excitement building as the countdown continues to Sunday's Super Bowl 60. Monica Nelson has a preview.
The Seattle Seahawks will try to avenge their worst loss in franchise history, their Super Bowl 49 loss to New England. This is the first time the Hawks are back in the big game since that defeat in 2015, and they're once again facing off against the Patriots, who are aiming for an NFL record 7th Super Bowl title. I'm Monica Nelson.
All right, Monica, we'll have more on the big game a little later in the broadcast. Also ahead on today's Noon Report, massive water main break in Buffalo, gondola rescue on Gore Mountain, and bringing back cursive writing.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, tracking what appears likely to be a brutally cold weekend around these parts. I've got the numbers. Your complete forecast is coming up in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. Let's check the stories making news where you live. All across New York and Pennsylvania, a massive fire broke out overnight at the Lehigh Valley Hospital in Dixon City, Pennsylvania. More than 70 patients were evacuated as flames engulfed the facility. Emergency crews responded to the scene just before 10 p.m. Flames were spotted coming from the roof of the hospital. The fire spread through the orthopedics building, which is attached to the main building there in Dixon City. Water main breaks have become commonplace during this brutal cold spell. It's been below freezing for nearly 2 weeks now. The cold caused a massive water main break last night in Buffalo that forced emergency evacuations. Angelica Gallagher with WIVB.
This is a massive water main break. Streets are completely flooded under multiple feet of water.
The water levels were so high, people had to be rescued by boat in Buffalo's Black Rock neighborhood along Hurdle Avenue. Roads closed in that area today. 3 schools were forced to go remote. Nearly 30 people in all were evacuated. For the first time ever, New York has an all-female ticket in the race for governor. Incumbent Democrat Kathy Hochul selected former New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams as her running mate. Those two will make their debut together tomorrow at the New York State Democratic Party convention in Syracuse. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman will be formally nominated as the Republican gubernatorial candidate at the GOP convention, and that gets underway next week on Long Island. Governor Hochul was in Binghamton Wednesday, where she stressed local law enforcement should not be involved in federal immigration efforts.
I want local cops doing their local jobs, not feeling a responsibility to do ICE's job. federal government can take care of that themselves.
Hochul says ICE has $85 billion in federal funding and does not need any additional help for what she called unnecessary actions. House Democrats are renewing their push for pot in Pennsylvania. They argue publicly owned and operated cannabis shops could generate over $700 million a year in revenue for the Commonwealth. But critics say the money earned is not worth the cost that communities would pay.
When it comes to health care, when it comes to education, when it comes to law enforcement, when you increase access to these high potency products, you're going to have costs. It's a cost I don't want to see Pennsylvania pay.
Dan Barkowiak with the Pennsylvania Family Institute is especially worried about the impact legal weed would have on kids.
There's been a lot of good intentions with these types of policies, but ultimately what we see is an industry that takes over and looks to promote and advertise these types of harmful products and appeal that to young children.
Democrats argue legalizing marijuana could lead to greater regulation and prevent minors from gaining access to illegal drugs. A Wayne County, New York woman's been arrested and charged with trying to sell drugs near an elementary school in Lyons. Cops searched her apartment and found several tasers along with a large stash of narcotics. Police say the suspect, Lisanne Livingston, was living with several young children at that home. Pennsylvania schools could soon be phone-free. The state Senate's passed a bill requiring K through 12 schools implement a bell-to-bell phone-free policy beginning next fall. In Carlisle, such a policy is already in place. Superintendent Colleen Friend.
This is our first school year that we have implemented this. I am only sorry that we didn't start it earlier.
The Senate legislation bans the use of phones not just in the classroom, but at lunch and during recess, too.
That's the time when kids really need to make connections with each other and learn how to navigate those relationships.
According to the legislation, school boards would decide how best to enforce the ban in their own districts.
We want to make sure that they have the power to implement this policy and see it through.
The governor's already promised to sign the measure into law once it reaches his desk. An old school skill will soon be making a comeback in Pennsylvania. Students must learn cursive again. Cursive writing, that is. The House and Senate have signed off on the measure. The bill requires cursive instruction at the elementary school level. Supporters say cursive writing helps students connect to history. It's also known to strengthen fine motor skills and remains useful for tasks like signing checks and legal documents. More than half the states in these United States currently require cursive instruction at school. Brutal winter weather's leading to delays in mail delivery in Erie County, Pennsylvania. Many residents of the Gem City are finding out the check is not in the mail due to all that snow and ice. Worried homeowners telling Jet TV.
For a whole week or so, I wasn't getting anything, bills, nothing, and I've been having a hard time.
There was probably a 5 to 6 day delay. That impacts people's lives in a big way.
Lawrence Park Township Manager Spencer Cadden admits he's heard a lot of complaints too.
Just expressing that, it's been anywhere from 8 to 12 days that they've not received their mail. It's also tax time, waiting for things like W-2s. So those are the types of things we're hearing from residents.
The U.S. Postal Service says safety is its top priority, and carriers make every reasonable attempt to deliver the mail when it's safe to do so. End quote. 3 years after a toxic train derailment near Pennsylvania's border with Ohio, scientists are still searching for answers about the long-term health effect. Here's Family Life's Brian Query.
Researchers are continuing to study possible health impacts from the 2023 East Palestine, Ohio train derailment that released hazardous chemicals into the air and waterways, including areas of western Pennsylvania. A University of Pittsburgh researcher is part of a 5-year federally funded health study examining whether exposure to chemicals may be linked to liver, thyroid, or respiratory problems. This week, a new research office opened in East Palestine to enroll participants. Up to 550 people will receive medical exams and long-term follow-ups as scientists work to determine whether chemical exposure has caused lasting health effects. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. A mechanical issue at one of New York's most popular ski resorts caused quite a scare yesterday. Nearly 70 skiers got stuck on a broken gondola in 15-degree temperatures at Gore Mountain in the Adirondacks.
We were worried for the first 2 hours. We were a little sketched out because we were sitting on a gondola. We were just going to drop. And then once everything was calm and collected, we were all okay. We were really just hanging out, getting ready to be rescued.
What a scene that must have been. A DEC forest ranger climbed the lift towers, traveled along the cable, then used ropes to lower people from that gondola to the ground. This skier was thankful for that.
We had to be careful we didn't bump into the side of the car, the gondola, but he lowered us down to the ground, and it was all very well done. I felt very secure through the whole thing.
The skiers were stuck for more than 2 hours, about 25 feet off the ground. No injuries reported, and all those involved in that ordeal are being compensated by officials there at Gore Mountain. And still to come on the Noon Report for Thursday, where in the world is Nancy Guthrie? De-icing Minneapolis and the alternative halftime show at this weekend's Super Bowl.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. History, Henry Ford famously said, is just one darn thing after another. He meant that human history is no more than a random flow of events with no cause, no purpose, no destination. Similarly, philosopher Thomas Nagel described history as the story between two oblivions, where everything starts with a bang and ends with a bigger bang. The worldview behind this understanding of human history is the dominant one of our age, not just in the academy and among philosophers, but really at the level of popular culture. It's behind the pervasive sense of meaninglessness that more and more people feel, but are not quite sure where it came from. If the only meaning to be found is whatever we can imagine and impose on the world around us, then that puts the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we're just unable to bear that kind of weight. And this points to the fundamental confusion at the heart of this cultural moment. What kind of world do we live in? Is it created? And inherent to that question is whether or not there are any givens to reality, or if everything is merely socially constructed. Think about, for example, the difference between gravity and speed limits. A speed limit's a social construct. When a road is built, a group of people get together, they look at the road conditions and determine a safe number. But if the conditions of the road change, well then so can the speed limit. A world that rejects a creator, whether on purpose or just by osmosis, tends to treat everything, what it means to be male and female, marriage, government, law, human dignity, as if it's a speed limit. And that's why our definitions of morality and identity seem to be constantly changing. Gravity's not a social construct. For example, we could get together a group of people right now and democratically decide that we think gravity should make things go up instead of down. But it's not going to change anything. To paraphrase Dallas Willard, the next time we step off a roof, we're still going to hit the ground. That's the way reality works. And that's how the Bible describes reality in that way. It offers us more than just a set of disconnected moral principles or spiritually encouraging insights. What it describes is reality as it actually is. Of course, the Bible contains a number of individual truth claims, but when Christians say that the Bible is true, what we mean is that it tells the truth about history, the truth about reality, the truth about the human condition. The new Truth Rising study summarizes God's game plan for Christians in this cultural moment. The game plan is summarized in 4 lessons: hope, truth, identity, and calling. As we say in the study, the Bible tells the truth about reality and does so in 4 chapters: creation, fall, redemption, and restoration. These chapters form the biblical timeline from the creation of the heavens and earth to the new heavens and new earth. As Truth Rising, the study, makes clear, these 4 chapters are not only the best way to understand the story that the Bible tells, but because they are the story the Bible tells, these 4 chapters are the only way that we can rightly understand reality. Now, if Christians are going to be faithful in such a complicated and confusing civilizational moment that we're in, we have to know what's true about reality. History is not just one darn thing after another. For a deeper look at the truth of reality, as well as hope, identity, and calling, join Truth Rising, the study. It's a 4-part study designed for families, churches, and small groups, and it will move Christians from feeling powerless in the face of civilizational decline to embracing and living their God-given calling in this time and in this place. You can learn more and download the study for free at colsoncenter.org/study. That's colsoncenter.org/study. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet. And for more resources or to share this commentary with others, go to colsoncenter.org/radio.
All right, John, thank you very much. Let's take things outside next. Meteorologist Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life forecast for this afternoon. Mix of clouds and sunshine. Flurries will be departing areas near Lake Ontario. High temperatures 20s. Tonight, some clouds, some starlight, low temps, single digits and teens. Tomorrow morning, sun and cloudy with afternoon flurries, a high in the 20s to near 30. Watch for snow squall later tomorrow night. Bitterly cold on Saturday. Occasional snow and flurries, blowing snow, and temperatures falling. Saturday afternoon, readings will be in the single digits. Some areas will be below zero. Wind chills on Saturday from -15 to -30.
Ooh, that is cold. Thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Here's what's happening Thursday, February 5th. Things are bleak in Buffalo. A water main break in the Queen City last night caused major flooding. 26 people had to be evacuated by boat from their homes. Mayor of Buffalo, Sean Ryan.
Water came up with a lot of pressure, buckled the street, trapping a Metro bus and several cars. Buffalo Fire Department was on the scene right away, swift water recovery, and they were able to pull dozens of people out of the freezing water as their cars were submerging, so nobody was injured.
The mayor says Buffalo's not had a temperature reading above freezing in nearly 2 weeks. 3 schools in the area closed today as several feet of water inundated that neighborhood near Military Road and Hurdell Avenue in the Black Rock neighborhood of Buffalo. NBC Today Show host Savannah Guthrie posted a video on Instagram last night pleading for the safe return of her missing mother, 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. On the video, Savannah Guthrie makes a direct appeal to the kidnapper.
We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her.
Guthrie demanding proof of life as she appeared on the video with her brother and sister. Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her Arizona home over the weekend. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos.
Nothing has come up that says, here he is, here's your bad guy. We're working towards, where's Nancy? Where's Miss Guthrie? We want to find her.
The sheriff says he believes with all his heart that Nancy Guthrie is still alive. Blood was recovered outside the home where she was taken. And according to TMZ, a suspicious man was seen lurking in a yard near Nancy Guthrie's home several weeks ago. For the first time in decades, the U.S. and Russia have no limits on nuclear weapons. At midnight last night, a 15-year-old treaty called New START expired, and with it, caps on the number of weapons the two sides can deploy on missiles, bombers, and submarines. ICE is reducing its footprint in Minnesota. Correspondent Lucas Tomlinson.
The Trump administration announcing a pullback of federal officers in Minneapolis after those 2 shootings and protests that have stretched on for weeks. While 700 immigration officers are coming out, 2,000 will remain. President Trump says he favors the reduction.
The Washington Post has laid off 1/3 of its workforce, about 300 employees. That will eliminate the Washington Post coverage of sports and some local news. In addition, the newspaper's closing some of its foreign bureaus and getting rid of its beloved book review section. The Post's executive editor calls the cuts necessary amid ever-evolving user habits. Country music star Jelly Roll is gifting one of the 3 Grammys he won at Sunday's award show to the Davidson County Juvenile Detention Center in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where Jelly Roll spent some time during his troubled teenage years. Jelly Roll says he hopes the gift will provide inspiration for those who are helping transform the lives of wayward youth. The Winter Olympics started Wednesday in Milan, Italy. These are expected to be the last games where transgender athletes will be allowed to compete.
Congressman Chip Roy of Texas is in favor of the changes being made by the International Olympic Committee.
They're hedging back and forth because they're indoctrinated with a bunch of, frankly, radical leftists, but they recognize the reality of what we're actually dealing with here.
He spoke this week during the markup of what has been dubbed the Protection of Women in Olympic and Amateur Sports Act. It would add a new rule requiring amateur sports organizations to ban trans girls in order to be eligible for certification. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
The opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics are tomorrow night on NBC. You're tuned in to the Noon Report on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnish. With me today, focus on the family's issues analyst, Zachary Medler. We're talking the Super Bowl. It is the New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks this weekend. And while there's excitement about action on the field, there's controversy about content at the halftime show watched by some 100 million people. This year, for the first time, Turning Point USA will be hosting its own halftime show. What do you think of what they're billing as an all-American halftime?
I honestly think this is a phenomenal idea. Competition is as American as apple pie in football, and for too long there has been zero competition when it comes to the Super Bowl halftime show. The Super Bowl, their halftimes have only gotten worse. They're nearly unwatchable. I know for myself and for many others who like watching the Super Bowl, we find the halftime show generally something to absolutely stay away from. And there's so many parents who fear watching it because they have no idea what kind of content is going to come on. And TPUSA's halftime show especially, I think, is promising because it's going to feature American culture, freedom, and faith. And I think that that's going to be a great alternative to what the regular Super Bowl halftime show normally is.
Do you think that they'll draw a decent audience?
I think most Americans, and especially the vast majority of parents, are hungry for fun, family-friendly content that they don't have to fear needing to switch the channel at any moment's notice. I think there's a huge demand for this kind of content.
The headline act at Levi's Stadium for the NFL game will feature Grammy-winning music artist Bad Bunny, who says that he's going to use the time to promote Latin queer icons. He says he wants to pay homage to generations of drag resistance and cultural rebellion. What say you?
Well, I think Bad Bunny lives up to his name. You know, he's known for wearing the occasional dress, for supporting illegal immigration, and even promoting different LGBT causes. And I think for tens of millions of Americans who are Christians, who are conservatives, they have absolutely no interest in tuning into a performance of an individual who's going to likely use the time to support causes that are just the absolute antithesis of what so many conservative Christians support.
Turning Point's Choice Act is not without controversy. Kid Rock has a history of rough lyrics, and many are wondering why they didn't pick someone like Carrie Underwood or a crossover like Toby Mac to perform. I don't want to tear apart the heart of what TPUSA is doing, but do you think that Kid Rock can be kid-friendly?
Kid Rock certainly has a checkered past in terms of the songs that he's performed, and I do think the All-American Halftime Show is likely going to be more family-friendly than Kid Rock normally is, but I like TPUSA's way of doing something better than everyone else's way of not doing something. So their willingness to provide an alternative to the regular halftime show, you know, it might not be perfect. Kid Rock certainly is not my normal cup of tea, but again, if they're the only organization that's willing to provide a real Super Bowl halftime alternative, then I'm certainly game for that.
Do you think that more wholesome halftime shows will send the message to the NFL that America wants sports to return to its roots and be family friendly?
Yeah, I think if the NFL sees their Super Bowl halftime show audience numbers crater, I think TPUSA could have a really successful All-American halftime show, and that could certainly prompt the NFL to get the message. There's some polls that I looked at that found that at least 71% of American parents want more family-friendly content. They want to be able to watch content, entertainment as a family, and not have to be worried about changing the channel at a moment's notice because they don't know what's going to pop up on the screen. And, you know, if there's something that most American companies and corporations understand, it's supply and demand. And right now there is great demand on behalf of families for more family-friendly content. And I think that's why TPUSA has an opening right now to provide exactly what is needed during this year's Super Bowl.
What would you say to Christians that are watching the big game and it's halftime?
We often talk about voting our values, and we have to view our values too. For most Americans, that includes changing the channel during the Super Bowl halftime this year and tuning into what TPUSA, what they can provide as an alternative. I'd really encourage Christians to consider their options. Do we really want to tune into a performance of Bad Bunny, who's going to likely use the time to champion far-left causes, Or do we want to tune into a performance of an organization founded by Charlie Kirk that's promising to provide a family-friendly alternative? So for me, that's kind of asking like whether I'd like to eat celery or steak. It's just not a hard choice in my mind.
Turning Point is best known for speaking the truth of Jesus Christ. And you just mentioned it, to a world that believes otherwise. Charlie was famous for it. Zach, why does it matter to stand up for the truth, even if you have to create an entire halftime show to do it?
I think of Scripture where it says, we are the light of the world, and a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. And that's our role as Christians in this culture, especially this Sunday. I think it provides a really great, really easy opportunity that all Americans can help participate in standing up for the truth, standing up for what is good, by doing something very easy, and that's just turning the channel on Sunday.
Learn more at FocusOnTheFamily.com.
Thank you, Sarah. The name of the program, Faith Under Fire, comes your way every Thursday during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and FamilyLife.org.
Well, good afternoon to all. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Our focus weather-wise is on the weekend. An Arctic cold front will slice the region Friday night with snow squalls, and in its wake, just bitterly cold, dangerously cold air will arrive. We expect wind chills Saturday morning to be between minus 15 and minus 30, with flurries and some lake snows, and the Arctic air will linger into early next week. For this afternoon, however, we'll have a mix of clouds and sunshine. Flurries will be departing areas near Lake Ontario. High temperatures 20s. Tonight, some clouds, some starlight, low temps, single digits and teens. Tomorrow morning, sun and cloudy with afternoon flurries, a high in the 20s to near 30. Watch for snow squall later tomorrow night. Bitterly cold on Saturday. Occasional snow and flurries, blowing snow, and temperatures falling. Saturday afternoon, readings will be in the single digits. Some areas will be below zero. Wind chills on Saturday from minus 15 to minus 30.
All right, Kevin, thanks for the update. And finally, at noon, Valentine's Day is coming, folks, next Saturday, whether you like it or not. Correspondent Bree Tennis.
The average American will drop about $200 this Valentine's Day, but a growing number of us will boycott the holiday. A recent YouGov poll shows 30% of adults don't even like Valentine's Day, and there's a growing movement of people embracing un-Valentine's Day. Nothing against love, just the act of being told when and how to celebrate it. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, Bree, thank you very much. And just like that, our time is up. That's our world, the world we live in. Thursday, February 5th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.